The studio lights burned white-hot against my skin as I touched the small photograph tucked inside my blazer pocket, Lisa's kindergarten picture, her gap-toothed smile, my talisman against fear. The teleprompter scrolled its relentless blue text, but I'd memorized every word hours ago. 3 years of investigation, for bankers' boxes of evidence, countless sleepless nights, all condensed into 12 minutes that would either make my career or destroy it. 60 seconds, Hong. My producer's voice crackled through the earpiece, sharp with the kind of nervous energy that comes from knowing you're about to detonate a bomb on live television. I smoothed down my blazer, the good one I'd bought specifically for this broadcast, charcoal gray with subtle pinstripes that said credible without screaming, trying too hard. My reflection stared back from the monitor, 30 years old, dark hair pulled into a severe bun that my mother hated, too harsh, Hong. Men don't like harsh, cheekbones sharp enough to cut glass from 3 days of forgetting to eat. I looked like what I was, a woman who'd sacrificed everything for the truth. The folder sat on the desk before me, innocuous manila hiding the secrets that would shatter Harbor City's power structure. Bank records tracing money through a labyrinth of shell corporations. Witness testimonies from people brave enough or desperate enough to talk. Photographs that connected Vladislav Korovin to murders, extortion, human trafficking, a criminal empire masquerading as legitimate business. Vlad Korovin. Even his name tasted dangerous in my mouth. 30 seconds. My hands trembled slightly as I placed them on the desk, fingers laced to hide the shake. Professional. Composed. Unshakable. That's what Harbor City needed to see tonight. Not the single mother who'd cobbled together childcare and groceries and student loans. Not the daughter whose immigrant parents had worked themselves to exhaustion so she could sit in this chair. Not the woman who sometimes woke at 3 a.m., heart racing, wondering if she was about to make the biggest mistake of her life. The camera's red light winked like a predator's eye. 15 seconds. You good, Hong? I nodded, not trusting my voice yet. Through the studio glass, I could see the control room. A hive of producers and technicians, all watching me with that peculiar mixture of excitement and dread that comes from knowing you're complicit in something momentous. My mentor Julian Torres stood in the back, arms crossed, his weathered face creased with concern and pride in equal measure. He'd taught me everything, how to follow the money, how to protect sources, how to write truth so cleanly it couldn't be denied. How to be afraid and do it anyway. 10, 9, 8. I thought about Lisa, safe at my mother's apartment, probably already asleep in her purple pajamas, clutching the stuffed rabbit she'd had since birth. Tomorrow morning, she'd wake up and her mother would be famous or infamous. She'd understand someday why Mommy had done this, why standing up to powerful men wasn't just brave but necessary. Why silence in the face of evil made you complicit. 7, 6, 5. And I thought about him. I couldn't help it. For years hadn't dulled the memory of Marco Santos's smile, the way his laugh had sounded like an absolution I hadn't known I needed. 2 days that had felt like falling and flying simultaneously. An art gallery opening where I'd gone to cover a charity event and found instead a man who looked at me like I was the only person in the room worth seeing. Marco Santos, art dealer, he'd said, extending his hand with a confidence that bordered on arrogance, but somehow didn't cross the line. Hong He, journalist, I replied, taking it. His eyes had been dark, almost black in the gallery's dramatic lighting, and when he smiled, something had shifted in my carefully constructed world. We talked about art and lies and the way beauty could disguise truth. We laughed. We'd walked along the harbor at midnight, my heels in my hand, his jacket around my shoulders. We'd spent 2 perfect days together before he vanished without explanation, leaving only a business card that turned out to be fake and a daughter I'd raise alone. Lisa had his eyes. That same deep, knowing darkness that seemed to see through every defense I'd ever built. 4, 3, 2. I straightened my spine, lifted my chin, and stared directly into the camera lens. 5 million people were about to watch me destroy the most dangerous man in Harbor City. They would call me brave. They would call me reckless. They would call me a hero or a fool, depending on which side of the truth they stood. What they wouldn't know, what I didn't know, was that the man whose empire I was about to expose and the man who'd given me my daughter were the same person. The red light blazed to life. Good evening. I'm Hong Hee, and tonight, we're going to talk about the man who owns this city. The parking garage was empty except for the echo of my heels against concrete. 11 p.m. and I was still buzzing from the broadcast, my phone lighting up every few seconds with texts from colleagues, strangers, even my old journalism professor. "You did it," Julian had messaged. "You really did it." I was fumbling for my keys when the black Mercedes pulled across the exit ramp, blocking me in. My breath caught. The door opened and he stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, moving with that same fluid confidence I remembered. But now I knew what that confidence was built on. Blood. Fear. Power. "Hello, Hong." His accent was slightly thicker than I remembered, the Russian underneath the careful English. Or should I say, Ms. He, investigative journalist extraordinaire. The world tilted sideways. Marco Santos with his art dealer smile and his lies about impressionist painters. Except he wasn't Marco at all. "Vlad Korovin," I whispered. "You seem surprised." He moved closer and I saw it then, how stupid I'd been. The expensive watch I'd thought was pretentious. The way men had deferred to him at that gallery opening. The bodyguards I'd mistaken for art handlers. "I came to ask about the child. The one in the photograph on your desk." My heart stopped. Lisa's kindergarten picture, the one I kept facing away from the cameras. "I don't know what you're." "How old is she?" The question was soft. Almost gentle. That's what terrified me most. I couldn't answer. Couldn't breathe. But my silence was answer enough. "I have a daughter." His voice cracked on the word daughter. "And you never told me." Rage finally broke through my shock. "You lied about your name. Your entire existence was a lie." What was I supposed to do? Track down the mysterious art dealer who gave me a fake business card? Who disappeared without a... The gunfire was so loud I didn't process it as gunfire at first. Just noise, chaos, Vlad's hand yanking me down as bullets sparked off concrete where my head had been. His men materialized from nowhere, returning fire, and through the ringing in my ears I heard him grunt pain, not fear, as blood bloomed across his shoulder. "Move." He shoved me toward the Mercedes, his other hand pressed to the wound. I stumbled, my mind refusing to catch up with my body. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. His driver floored it before my door was fully closed. Behind us, more gunfire. Shouting. The screech of tires. I stared at the blood on my hands, his blood, and couldn't form words. Vlad was pressing his jacket against his shoulder, his jaw tight with pain. When he looked at me, something in his eyes was raw and unguarded. Like it or not, we're in this together now. The monster I'd spent 3 years exposing had just taken a bullet meant for me. And somewhere in my mother's apartment, our daughter was sleeping, dreaming innocent dreams about a world that had just shattered into pieces neither of us could put back together. I woke to an unfamiliar ceiling and the metallic taste of fear. The penthouse was all glass and steel, sterile as an operating room. 3 a.m. according to the clock I didn't recognize. My blazer was draped over a chair, Vlad's blood-dried brown across the lapel. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see the city lights sprawling below us. And on the coffee table, propped against a water glass, Lisa's kindergarten photo. The one from my desk. He was sitting across the room, shirtless, while a gray-haired man in glasses stitched his shoulder. Vlad didn't flinch, didn't make a sound, just stared at that photograph like it held answers to questions he hadn't learned to ask yet. "I won't apologize for keeping her safe," I said, my voice hoarse. His eyes met mine. "And I won't apologize for wanting to know her. I need to see her. Right now." He nodded to one of his men, Anton, I'd learn later, who handed him a phone. "They're already there. Your mother's apartment. My men have been watching them for," he stopped. "They're safe." The video call connected and Lisa's face filled the screen, sleepy and confused. "Mommy?" I broke, completely shattered. Covered my mouth to keep the sobs quiet while my daughter asked why I wasn't there to read her the Purple Dragon story. When I finally ended the call, promising I'd be home soon, promising things I had no right to promise, Vlad had disappeared into the kitchen. He'd made coffee. Strong and black, the way I'd drunk it that weekend 4 years ago when we'd stayed up until dawn talking about everything and nothing. "The art gallery," I said, accepting the mug. "You told me you were an art dealer." "I owned the gallery." That part was true. He sat across from me, careful of his shoulder. "I was there for a business meeting that had nothing to do with art. Then I saw you and he stopped. I wanted to be someone else. Just for a night." It was 2 days. Best 2 days of my life. His voice was quiet. "Then my father had a stroke. I left to say goodbye and inherited an empire I never wanted. I looked for you," I admitted. "Called every art gallery in the city. I looked for you too. But Hong Smith doesn't exist, does it?" My cheeks burned. I'd given him my mother's maiden name, protecting myself the way I always did. The morning news droned from the television, my face, my exposé, playing on repeat. My phone rang. My producer, breathless with excitement. The FBI wanted to meet. This was huge. This was career-making. Vlad's expression darkened. "Don't trust them. Half of them are on someone's payroll. That's paranoid." He pulled out a laptop, fingers flying across keys. Bank records appeared. FBI agents' names beside deposits. Dates that coincided with dropped investigations, disappeared witnesses. My coffee went cold in my hands. "You wanted the truth, Hong." His dark eyes held mine. "Are you ready for how deep it goes?" Lisa was drawing at my mother's kitchen table, purple crayon moving in fierce circles. "Who's the man who helps Mommy?" she asked without looking up. My throat closed. "What man, sweetheart?" "The one with the dark eyes. Like mine." My mother, she'd insisted I call her by her American name since childhood, gripped my arm. "Hong, this needs to stop. You've made your point. Let someone else finish this." "I'm so close, Mama." Pride. Her voice cracked. "It's always been your weakness. Just like your father." I wanted to argue. Wanted to explain that this wasn't pride, it was principle. But Lisa was watching us with those two knowing eyes, and I couldn't find the words. The park was Lisa's favorite, swings and a purple slide she'd claimed as her own. Midday sun, families everywhere. Safe. It had to be safe. The two men approached casually. Too casually. I grabbed Lisa's hand, and then suddenly there were others. Vlad's men, I realized, materializing from nowhere. The confrontation was silent, professional, terrifying in its efficiency. Then Vlad was there, stepping out of a car I hadn't seen arrive. Lisa tilted her head, studying him with the serious concentration she usually reserved for particularly difficult puzzles. "You have my eyes." The most dangerous man in Harbor City looked like he'd been shot again. The penthouse felt different with Lisa in it. She explored fearlessly, touching expensive things with sticky 3-year-old fingers while Vlad hovered nearby, clearly terrified. A crime lord who'd stared down armed rivals, frozen by a toddler. "Are you Mommy's friend Marco?" My heart stopped. I'd never told her that name. Never even said it out loud since. I'd like to be, Vlad said, kneeling to her eye level. His voice was gentle in a way I'd never heard before. Lisa considered this gravely. Okay. Do you like puzzles? After she fell asleep in Vlad's bedroom, in his bed, clutching her purple rabbit, he brought me files. Boxes of them. If you're going to destroy me, he said quietly, at least know who you're destroying. I read through the night. Bank records, business transactions, a paper trail that showed systematic legitimization. Every violent incident I documented in my exposé, I could trace them back. His father's orders. His father's men. Vlad had been trying to dismantle it all, slowly, carefully, without triggering a war. But he'd still profited. Still looked the other way. Still had blood on his hands even if he hadn't personally pulled the triggers. Dawn was breaking when I looked up. He was watching me from across the room, his expression carefully blank. I don't know what to do with this, I whispered. The man I'd loved for 2 perfect days. The monster I'd exposed on television. The father my daughter deserved to know. The criminal who'd built his empire on suffering. All the same person. And nothing about justice had ever felt less simple. Special Agent Victoria Cross had the kind of smile that never reached her eyes. Miss He, thank you for coming in. Vlad had warned me not to go alone. I'd gone anyway, some stubborn part of me still believing in institutions, in the system I'd spent my career defending. We'd like you to wear a wire. Get close to Korovin, gather evidence. You're already close, aren't you? Cross's smile sharpened. Your daughter has his eyes. Quite a resemblance. The room tilted. They knew about Lisa. Cooperate, Cross said pleasantly, and we can ensure her safety. Don't end well. 3-year-olds are so vulnerable, aren't they? I agreed because what choice did I have? Then I drove straight to the penthouse and told Vlad everything. He didn't look surprised. They've been waiting for an excuse to move on me. He pulled out his own files. The FBI corruption evidence he'd shown me before. We give them what they want, but on our terms. An uneasy alliance. The journalist and the criminal, planning together in the pre-dawn darkness while our daughter slept in the next room. Julian called at noon. I found something. About the FBI. You need to see this. I should have told Vlad. Should have brought backup. But Julian was my mentor, the man who'd taught me everything, and some instinct made me go alone. I found him in his apartment, slumped over his desk. The gun in his hand. The note on the computer screen apologizing for fabricating sources, for lying, for... No, Julian would never. I knew his handwriting, his syntax, the way he structured sentences. This wasn't him. I was still standing there frozen when Vlad appeared in the doorway. We need to leave. Now. His hand on my arm, pulling me away from Julian's body. Police are already on their way. This is my world now, he said as we fled down the back stairs. And they just made it yours. In the car, I looked down at my hands. Julian's blood under my fingernails. My blazer, a different blazer. I'd thrown the first one away, now stained again. I did this. My voice cracked. My investigation killed him. No. Vlad's voice was hard. The people afraid of the truth killed him. The same people who'll kill you, kill Lisa, kill anyone who threatens their power. I'd thought the danger was his empire. His criminal organization. The violence I could document and expose. I'd been so stupid. The real danger was everyone who profited from the status quo. The agents on payrolls. The politicians taking bribes. The whole corrupt machinery that kept the city running on blood and lies. Teach me how to survive this, I whispered. And Vlad, the monster I'd exposed, the father of my child, the only person who understood what we were facing, took my blood-stained hand in his. Together, he said. That's how we survive. The safe house smelled like burned pancakes and Lisa's critique was merciless. They're too black, Marco. You have to flip them when they bubble. Vlad stood at the stove, spatula in hand, looking more uncertain than I'd ever seen him face down armed men. Like this. No, you're doing it wrong again. I watched them from the doorway. My daughter with his stubbornness, him with patience I hadn't known he possessed, and my heart broke with the weight of what could have been. This could have been our life. Should have been. After Lisa fell asleep that night, we sat on the porch of the farmhouse, crickets singing in the darkness. Was any of it real? I finally asked. That weekend. All of it. His voice was rough. Marco Santos was the man I wanted to be. And Vlad Korovin is who you are. I'm both. And neither. He turned to face me. And I don't know which one you're talking to right now. Maybe I'm talking to both. The kiss was desperate, complicated, for years overdue. Everything we'd lost and everything we'd never had compressed into a moment that tasted like regret and possibility. The glass shattered at dawn. Victor came through the front door with 5 men, guns drawn. Boss. Or should I say former boss. His smile was cold. Your exposé made you weak, Vlad. Time for new leadership. Get Lisa out, Vlad said to me, his voice deadly calm. Now. I grabbed our daughter, still half asleep, clutching her rabbit, and ran for the back bedroom. Behind us, gunfire. Shouting. The sounds of Vlad fighting. The window, the woods, Lisa's hand in mine as we crashed through undergrowth. My phone, Vlad's phone, actually, he'd given it to me days ago, was tracking enabled. I could see Victor's location. See them moving. See them taking Vlad. Mommy? Lisa was crying. Where's Marco? I could run. Take Lisa somewhere safe, disappear, save my daughter. Or I could fight. Save the man who'd saved me. The father Lisa deserved to know. We have to help Marco, Lisa whispered, reading my face the way she always did. I pulled out the phone with shaking hands and called the one person who might answer. The devil I knew. Agent Cross. I have a deal for you. Vlad's testimony for protection. Everything he knew about the FBI corruption, the money trails, all of it. In exchange for witness protection. For all of us. Cross was silent for a long moment. Then, where? I gave her Victor's location. Watched the tracking dot on the screen. I'm going to save him, I said, more to myself than Cross. Even if he doesn't want to be saved. Lisa squeezed my hand. Mommy's brave. Not brave. Terrified. But sometimes love and principle weren't opposites. Sometimes they were the same thing, burning so bright you had to follow them even into darkness. I stormed into the FBI command center with Lisa safe at my mother's and one demand on my lips. I'll give you everything. But we do this my way. Cross looked up from the tactical maps. Your way. A second live broadcast. I expose everything, Vlad's crimes, the FBI's corruption, Victor's coup. All of it. That's not how this works. I recorded our first meeting. I held up my phone. The one where you threatened my 3-year-old daughter. So yes, Agent Cross. This is how it works now. Her jaw tightened. What do you want? Truth is the only weapon I have left. Let me use it. The FBI raided Victor's warehouse at dusk. I went live from outside, my face illuminated by floodlights and federal vehicles, and told the whole story to 10 million viewers. The Mafia boss. The journalist. The daughter they shared. My investigation, my bias, my conflict, my love. I'm breaking every rule I swore to uphold, I said into the camera. But sometimes the right thing isn't the objective thing. Sometimes it's just the human thing. Inside, I could hear shouting. Gunfire. Then silence. They brought Vlad out on a stretcher, wounded but alive, his dark eyes finding mine across the chaos. The FBI van's monitors showed my broadcast on repeat, my confession playing to the city. He'd heard every word. Our eyes met, and no words were needed. 2 years later. The house was small but ours. A rental in a town where nobody knew our old names. Vlad ran a security consulting firm, legitimate contracts with legitimate clients. I taught journalism at the community college, warning students about the cost of truth and the necessity of paying it anyway. Lisa started kindergarten with 2 last names and too many questions. Tell me the story of how you met, she demanded over dinner, a purple plate, still her favorite color, piled with chicken nuggets. Vlad and I exchanged glances. The art gallery. The lies. The broadcast. The blood. Julian's death. Victor's betrayal. The second broadcast that had destroyed and saved us simultaneously. It's complicated, we said together. Lisa grinned, gap-toothed and fierce. Good. I like complicated things. Vlad reached for my hand across the table. His fingers were scarred from that last fight, my engagement ring simple, because we'd bought it with honest money and that meant something. So do we, little star, I said, squeezing back. So do we. The past didn't disappear. Vlad still woke up sometimes from nightmares about his father's empire. I still saw Julian's face in quiet moments. The crimes we'd exposed had sent shockwaves through Harbor City's power structure, and the ripples were still spreading. But love didn't erase the past. It just helped you build a different future. And ours, complicated, messy, built on truth and second chances, was exactly what we deserved. What did you think of Hong and Vlad's story? Would you have made the same choice in that parking garage? Drop a comment below and let me know. I love hearing your thoughts. And if this story kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to like and subscribe for more intense, emotional narratives. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more stories like this one. Thanks for reading, and I'll see you in the next one.